Welcome back to the Adaptive Athlete Podcast, the place for conversations with adaptive athletes in the CrossFit space and beyond. I'm your host, Matt Hotho. On today's episode, I'm talking with Courtnei Lopez. Courtnei competes out of San Antonio, Texas, and she just wrapped up her 4th season at the Adaptive CrossFit Games, this time on the podium in 3rd, a spot that she locked down on the very last workout of the weekend. She competed in the neuromuscular moderate division. She's also a 3-time Wodapalooza champion, and she took first there again this past year in Miami. So here's what makes this year remarkable for Courtnei. A week before the Open started, Courtnei was in a car accident, and she carried the effects of that car accident through the entire season. So a big part of our conversation is about mentality. What happens when your plan falls apart before you even start competing? We also get into something that I think a lot of you have been asking about. I know a lot of you have been asking about that, and that's sponsorships. Courtnei has stacked up a large portfolio of sponsors, and she walks through exactly how she did it. The DMs, the follow-ups, the no's, and the advice she would give us on how to build sponsors. Plus, we talk about her experience competing at the 2023 Noble CrossFit Games in Madison, the adaptive crew that she's built in San Antonio, and we have a fun lightning round that involves a blend of Kanye and Taylor Swift. I don't know. You'll have to listen to it. So here's my conversation with Courtnei Lopez. Courtnei Lopez, welcome to the show.
Howdy, how are you?
Doing good, doing good. So I wanted to ask you right off the bat, you were posting on Instagram about a Xenom competition that you did. Not Xena the warrior princess, which I think of sometimes when I say Xenom, but Xenom, this new 2-day, 12-event CrossFit competition. I think it was in Dallas. Is that right?
Yeah, I was in Frisco at the Dallas Cowboys, one of their stadiums. They have a practice field.
Okay. Yeah. What was that experience like? Because it looks like a really cool way to do CrossFit that kind of gets the most competition compressed into 2 days, where you're not spending a lot of time sitting around under a pop-up tent or that kind of thing.
Honestly, it was the best experience of my life. That was probably that was the most fun competition I've probably ever done. They had 5 events a day, okay. And you kept moving. So you had your event and then you were probably waiting an hour. You didn't have enough time to, sit and lollygag, which I like the most because to me, once you sit down, you're done for the day and you didn't have time to be sore. So we had 5 events and it was very well-rounded. I feel like it did test, like it said, test all your abilities in CrossFit, whether that's grip strength, that's, a max lift type of strength event, your ability to cycle the bar, your gymnastics, your cardio. It had an event that tested everything. And I felt like that was a very good CrossFit event just because it tested everything. You're not leaving anything out.
Over 10 events, right? Over 10 events, you're going to get all of it, right?
Yeah. And I really liked it. I met a lot of people. My programmers, Proven, was there. They helped, run the event, and it was great to see them there. Nick from Proven, he's the CEO.
Oh, wow.
Incredible person, always there. And he gave me tips and, just nice to see the Proven team, Colton Mertens and Olivia Kerstetter and Kyra and all of them. It was cool. It was very nice.
When you were there then, because you were kind of with the Proven team, did you get to kind of hang out with them a little bit or just kind of say hey at least?
I did. Nick gave me tips. Nick and Kiefer gave me tips on how to do some of the events, and they actually pulled the Rhino deadlift for the first time, which it's a deadlift machine, but it has a flywheel on there and it tests your 5 rep max. That's what the dilemma was. And I was like, look, I have no idea. I don't even know what this is. And he said, well, try this out and then go ask, I think her name was Stephanie from Rogue, because Rogue was there as well. They sponsored the event with the equipment and they gave me tips on how to do things. And I can do handstand push-ups, but because they're not something that I need to do for my type of, adaptation in my in the competitions I compete in, I don't know the standards. I'm not going to lie. So Kiefer was there, an hour before the event. Put your hands here. Make sure you stay within, this stay on the line, and this and that. And he helped me with that. That was great. I had support there. My coach, he was in Georgia, so I heavily relied on Proven to help me out on this. And They're great. They're always there for me. So.
That's so cool. I mean, to get that many events done in 2 days without a ton of like breaks in between, I feel like your recovery just kind of goes right into your warm up for the next event. You're kind of fueling a little bit, that kind of thing. But you said something there that I want to stop on for a second, and that's that handstand push-ups are something that you don't, that you can do, but you don't train on a regular basis just because of, I think what you were hinting at there was your adaptation, kind of what makes you an adaptive athlete. There's something about handstand push-ups that are, one, something you just don't train that often, but two, kind of flare up your impairment and what makes you an adaptive athlete. So let's dive into that. Yeah.
So I like building the shoulder strength. I feel like it's very necessary in a lot of the movements we do, whether that's gymnastics or pull-ups or all the things. But I have a loss of power. And now it was my left arm. Now it's my left and right arms and shoulder area, which, of course, it's like a light switch. So you flip the switch off and boom, gravity just goes away. You fall down. That happens often. As of now, I'm having kind of a bit of a flare up from the accident. But that and my range of motion is my arms don't lock out, especially with some of the spasticity and all the things I encounter with my neurological conditions. That I have. So I don't practice those that often. And, it does give me the vestibular migraines, and it's not something I like to deal with the next day. So
Yeah. I think that's something that maybe some athletes listening to this can relate to, that they might have a skill that isn't tested in their division or isn't tested in kind of what they normally do in their day-to-day training, but they still practice it to make sure that they have it in case it's necessary. And it's kind of good sometimes to probably move your body and your shoulders through that different kind of plane of movement, I would imagine.
Yes. And I feel like the training, although it's not in my type of competition, I feel it helps me out in other ways. I like roller coasters. I loved going on them as a kid, but as I started, I had the vaccine injury, I started developing these symptoms to being these just migraines, everything being upside down, dizziness, vertigo, all the things. Being upside down has not been my favorite, but I feel like it's kind of helped me kind of be okay with being upside down for short periods of time. I actually went to Disney World for the first time last year, and I wasn't really bothered by roller coasters all that much. Granted, they were inside because Disney World is just incredible like that, but in Texas, growing up, some of the roller coasters, or actually all the roller coasters, are outside. So I always got the headaches.
Big. They're like, everything in Texas is bigger, but the roller coasters there are especially insane.
Yes, we had one made out of wood, and they finally replaced it.
Oh my gosh.
I mean, I swear that thing shook, and it shook, and it shook. It was called the Rattler, and now it's the Iron Rattler. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, it had a giant rattler snake on the very top, but now it's the Iron Rattler, and it runs a lot smoother. But
wow, do you know if they're doing more Xenom competitions? Have you heard about that?
Yes, they have one in London. I think it's this month. Okay. And then they have one in Miami right before Christmas.
Oh, are you going to go do another one?
I would like to, but I think we're taking a break from the competitions.
Okay. You're not going to do Waza?
No, my partner can't do it this year. Okay. So we were talking about it, and then he's like, "Oh, I can't go." I said, "Oh, that's fine. It's probably a sign, to be quite honest." Okay. But around the same time, I'm going to go to a friend's wedding, and then I'm going to go to Orlando Studios right after it. So I figured that was a sign. So it's like, okay, it's like one or the other. And it's like, well, I'm going to choose my friend's wedding, competition will always be there, but the wedding will only happen, one time. So
for Wadapalooza 2027, then there will get to be a new champion in the neuro women's field. I believe you have taken first the last 3 years.
Yes. At the Miami one.
Yeah,
yes, I have.
At the Miami one. Yeah.
But the qualifiers for that one are not till November. So
okay.
The one in September is in California, and that's the adaptive pairs.
And are you doing that one? No, you're not going to do that one, are you?
No, that's the one I'm not going to do.
Okay.
We're still on the fence. I'm sorry about like the qualifiers for the next one.
I gotcha. Okay.
Yeah,
so you still may go back to Miami and defend your title.
Maybe. We'll see. We'll see. I mean, I'm almost 30 years old, so.
I'm 40, okay? We're in... Almost 30. I wish I'd found CrossFit when I was like late 20s, early 30s. Man, that's funny. So, okay. So those are some of the competitive stuff you've done, but that's recently. I think one thing that is really unique about your story is you're one of the few athletes that got to experience the games at Madison, like when they would run it with a field of like 5 in each division. You got all the swag. You're probably still rolling in Reebok or No Bull shoes. You probably still have clothes that you haven't even worn from that event. What were the 2023 games like that you got to do in Madison with a bunch of other competitors?
So 2023 games, it was very surreal. And to go back onto the clothing and the shoes, just know I have given some away because I have friends where there's a lot of people who mean a lot to me on this planet. And one of them, I'll tell you, I had the lifters, and of course they fit okay on me, but I have my preferred brand of lifters, and her son is getting into CrossFit. He's a baseball player, very good. And I was like, hey, does your son want these shoes? He's getting pretty serious into CrossFit. So they're brand new. I was like, take them. I don't want anything for him. I just want to see him.
And this is like recently, right? Like,
yes, recently. Yeah. And everybody, all my friends, they know they get something. They get swag, they get lifting belts, they get all sorts of stuff. Like everybody benefits, because my friends have always been there for me, especially in the CrossFit space. So they get, if I get something, they might be getting that as well. So
that's cool. Yeah.
But regarding the competition, that was very surreal. For me at that time, I haven't gone to Disney World just yet, but when I went, it felt like I stepped into Disney World for the first time in my life. And I was so at a loss for words with how everything was set up. You had both the fields and, you had elites and teams and age groups and adaptive all under one roof. And it was super cool. I'll tell you one of the experiences, and this has really shaped my career as an athlete. I met Ariel Lowen over there.
Oh, super cool. And
this is how it started. She came up to me and she goes, "Hi, what's your name?" And I'm like, "Are you talking to me?" Like looking around. Like, I'm just an adaptive athlete. Like, are you talking to somebody else or who are you talking to? And she goes, "I'm talking to you." And, I'm like, "Oh, I'm Courtney." And she goes, "Well, every year I try to meet somebody new and, befriend them." And ever since that, we've been friends. I've seen her at a lot of competitions. I talk to her every now and then. I do the same thing. I meet somebody new and I
That's
just
really
feel like
cool.
It's really nice to meet somebody friendly and just, could be somebody's first time like it was mine. And I'm anxious. I didn't have anybody there with me besides my family. And my coach wasn't there. So that kind of I was already anxious. I felt like a ringtail cat in a house full of rocking chairs. So it was bad. I felt so anxious.
Wait, what's that metaphor? What's that word picture there? A ringtail cat in a house full of rocking chairs.
Yeah. Yeah. I just was so, I was scared. It was crazy. You would wonder why somebody's scared at one of the best events that somebody's ever going to have.
No, I would totally understand. I was terrified at my first wheelwad games, and I had a coach there and my whole family, and it was still just like imposter syndrome, right? Yeah,
it really was. I was sitting there biking next to Justin Medeiros and Tia Toomey right next to me, and I'm just like, oh my gosh, can somebody pinch me? Because is this real? Am I dreaming?
And then you asked Justin if he could pinch you, and he was like, "Ma'am."
I was too shy. I did get a picture with him though at check-in, but I was way too shy. But going towards the events were tough. That was one of the toughest things I feel like I've ever done in my life. Deadlifts were super heavy, and I know it's Wisconsin, but it was hot, and that could have just been my fibromyalgia kicking my butt. But deadlifts were 165, 185. You're doing 20-foot rope climbs, GHD sit-ups, and it really tested everything. Mentally, that was probably the toughest thing.
Yeah, so I can imagine that was hard because of the heat and being outdoors in Madison, but also that was a hard test. Just like you were talking about Xenon being a good test over 2 days, those kind of OG CrossFit Games tests. They were a lot of events. they really tested the gamut of things, and you were doing a lot of work each day. I mean, you had a 5K one day, which you won, by the way. Well done.
Thank you.
You had an event that had like calories on multiple machines and double unders and just all of this just hard work. I mean, it was a hard weekend. So how did you feel when you kind of wrapped up that weekend? I knew you were telling me that final event with the chest to bar and the dumbbell snatches, you're in the Coliseum and like you're on ESPN, and you said your mom was just screaming so loud.
She was screaming.
Yeah.
She was so loud, but she's my biggest fan. So that last event specifically, it was very tough, and it was a very emotional part for me. Once we walked out, we were done with the event. They corralled us and said, okay, it's time for y'all to be drug tested. And everybody's getting a hug from their coach, this and that. And I just look around, I was like, oh shoot, like that hurt. That hurt really bad. Granted, I had Abby Dalmet's husband and her coach, Matt, but at that time, Abby was competing. So it was just myself under there.
Wow.
And I just started crying, and I just was so upset. And this masters athlete, and I wish I remembered his name. I don't remember it, but he brought me 2 slices of pizza and some oranges, and he like handed it to me, and he's like, this always makes my wife happy when she's upset. And I was just like, I just started laughing. And I was like, and I think he said he had daughters or something, but
yeah.
It just turned everything around, because at the same time, it's like, okay, well, that kind of brought me back, and it was very emotional. But the events were, I mean, I liked how difficult they were. They really tested me as a person and as an athlete, mentally and physically and emotionally. The calorie event, that one was, I think it was 40 cals on a machine, then it was dubs and 40 cals on another machine, and so on and so on. And I remember trying to learn my dubs right before CrossFit Games, and I had them, but it was very difficult.
Yeah.
And I have a severely inflamed cerebellum. So it's like my core is just one thing that shakes, like it stutters like an old car. So when I was at the gym practicing for those, it just made me so mad all the time. I was mad because I'm like, man, I almost have these where I can just get these broken. And finally, it was one of the last days before I was leaving for the games. I was doing an EMOM of dubs, and the first like 3 or 4 minutes of the EMOM, I missed the dub. I kept missing them, slapping myself, getting all these lashings on my arms and stuff like that. And finally I threw the jump rope, and I think I yelled at it probably. And then I just started getting the dubs. I just started stringing them.
Oh,
so that's it. That's all I had to do was just scream at the dubs. And, at the games, I ended up doing decent. I didn't do as good as I wanted to, but I think I did pretty decent with the dubs. So I was learning a lot of the skill work before I left for the games, because I wasn't, like I said, I wasn't used to some of the programming that they did. And I think Dave was programming the games for adaptive, and Kevin and Shannon were kind of modifying it to what our abilities or adaptations are.
Okay.
But yeah, that was one of the other things I learned was toes to ring. And I didn't realize how easy-ish it kind of was.
Yeah.
Abby's husband, Anton, actually was like, no, we got to do it like this. Like he was helping me like the last 2 weeks when I found out that we were going to be doing toes to rings. Well, I think they said like, oh, some of these are some of the movements, because I don't think they gave us the workouts until we got there. But
interesting. Okay, so they gave you some of the movements. That would make sense. That makes a lot of sense to kind of keep the test unknown a little bit.
Yeah,
but give you the ability to kind of test.
Bring it all.
Yeah.
Bring all your gear and show up.
Right. Yeah. And I don't know if we've said this yet, but Abby Domet trains in San Antonio with you. And kind of one of those things that happened before the games, I think it's more to the mindset of an adaptive athlete, right? Is one, we have a lot going on in our brains just because we're constantly kind of checking in with our bodies, making sure that, it's going to do what we want it to do when we want it to do, or that, or we're learning movement patterns differently because we're missing a limb or our body just moves differently. But then you throw on top of that the the unexpected of mental things that just happen in life that are out of your control, right? And so you hinted at it, but your coach didn't come to the games with you in 23. At the last minute, you found out that you weren't going to have a coach with you. And so I imagine that your mindset, being a rookie, the imposter syndrome, now your coach isn't there, and you're also an adaptive athlete with all that. I mean, that had to have been just a brew of things going on.
Yeah, that you might as well just check me into an insane asylum at that point. I was going a little crazy on that. I just was shocked, bamboozled a little bit, and I was like, oh my gosh, what am I going to do? How am I going to do this by myself? And Abby's husband heard me, and, he was just like, we're going to figure this out. Let's just, it's going to be fine. We're going to figure it out. And I actually ended up getting a call from her coach, the next day. And he's like, hey, like, I want to coach you at the games. Let me help you. Me and Anton will hop in, and, I know Abby's going to be competing at the same time, but we're going to do our very best to, support you. And that was, it made me feel at ease. I'm still friends with all of them. Abby goes to a different gym now, but every now and then she hops in at my gym, and we'll train over there. And I see her often. She's great. We actually have we both have the same sponsor, Modern Movement Sport and Spine.
Oh, cool.
And so, yeah, we run into each other often, when I'm there or when she's at my gym. But rest assured, it's going to be okay. And it was, that was a pivotal moment of my life, because I said, if I can do this with, everything going on, and, say Anton and Matt weren't able to be there, I mean, I can do this on my own. I got to figure it out. And I learned that I could do a lot of things on my own, and I didn't need help. There's a lot of things I didn't need help for, but the support is always appreciated. And, the crazy thing is, once I left the CrossFit Games, I ended up moving to another gym, and now I have the biggest support. Like, my community is the best community over there. So
we'll give them a shout out. Who are they?
It's a Fit Stop CrossFit. Okay. So we're in San Antonio, and, Bulverde Road, best gym I've ever been to. They're incredible. And the owners have been supportive before I've even been, training at their gym. So
yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, it's great. They're great people. All the coaches, the gym owners, and now their kid is competing at this level, and she's doing great. So I'm like, okay, I want to be as supportive as, they've been for me, but for you, because she's freaking good. She's a beast. So
you're kind of just like that mindset of like paying it forward.
Yes, definitely. And once I'm done with all this, I would like to do the same thing, pay it forward to my peers, and, however I can, or if I can volunteer, depending on, what the situation is. Yeah. If I can go volunteer, but, community does a lot for me, so I need to do a lot back.
This episode is brought to you by Equip Products. Whether you're a seated athlete, a single arm lifter, working through a neurological impairment, or coaching someone who is, Equip has the tools to make the gym actually work for you and for your adaptive athlete. They're partnered with WheelWOD, trusted by PTs and coaches, and they're the go-to source for adaptive fitness gear. Go explore everything they carry at equipproducts.com. There's something there for almost every adaptive athlete. One thing that I noticed as I was looking at your profile is you are sponsored by a lot of people. And I think there is a lot of interest in our community about, at least for me especially, how you go about doing that. Because I think there's athletes in our community who would benefit from sponsorships, both for the financial, but also the coverage side of it, just kind of the exposure side of it. And it might offset some of the costs and some of the stuff we hear around, well, this is a really expensive hobby, because it is a really expensive hobby. So tell me a little bit about how you made some of the sponsorship relationships that you have.
So I only have one sponsor that or two sponsors that really pay me. It's based off like commission. So if I sell something, I get a little bit of a kickback, and they don't necessarily pay for my travels or anything, but a lot of them, they supply me with protein, or they supply me with grips or shoes or all the things. And that, I mean, to me, I'm going to spend my money there anyways. So it's as if they're paying me, but they don't pay for the travel or anything. But they're all there for me. Jocko is one of my sponsors, and that's one of my first sponsors, actually, that I met them at the games in 2023. And the funny thing is in 2023, I was so anxious I could not eat. And I didn't eat the whole day, and I just lived off Jocko.
Oh, wow.
That entire weekend. I just drank protein shakes, and that probably wasn't, my stomach was probably not happy with that. But
fair.
The rep at Jocko, he's like, take whatever you want. And then we ended up talking, and he's like, okay, let me sponsor you. And, of course I asked. I was like, are you taking anybody? I'm an adaptive athlete. So my mom always told me no's are free. And the answer will always be no, unless, you ask. And you know what? It's like I asked. So besides Modern Movement Sport and Spine, Jocko was one of my first sponsors. And since then, I've just been asking. And, I'll send a message via Instagram. And then sometimes I get lucky and they say, hey, email so-and-so. And they either respond or they don't respond, or I'll send a follow-up if I haven't received a response. And then, sometimes they'll tell me no. And sometimes they're like, okay, email me back in 6 months, something crazy. And then still they don't even respond. But long story short,
but you just got to keep asking, yes. Right?
Right. Yeah. The right person, the right team, the right company will come along and they'll tell you yes. And I've managed to stack up a few sponsors.
Tell me the story about Lu Jiajun.
So I discovered their shoes last year. It was right before I went to the 2025 games, and I bought a pair of shoes. Well, my coach did. He's the greatest. And I loved them. And what got me was the designs. And I tried them on and I said, these are like Cinderella slipper. These are great. I don't even have feeling in my feet. And I knew they felt great mentally. So the design on them was cool. It kind of had like a 90s throwback. If you remember the purple and blue cups that they had like at the movie theaters. Yeah. So it had those colors on there. And I said, oh my gosh, I love these shoes. And I've just been chasing them since then. I messaged them and they're like, oh, well, glad you like the shoes and, whatever. And I'm like, okay, well, I love the shoes, but I want you to sponsor me. And I would just reach out, tag them all the time in stories. And I didn't get a contact when I asked for one at the time. And this was probably around September games 2025 time. And finally in March of 2026, when I went to Wodapalooza, I saw that they had the whole stand put up. They had a huge retail space in comparison to some of these other people. And I said, look, I've been reaching out to you since June of 2025. It is now March 2026, and I would like a sponsorship. And she goes, okay, yeah, I've seen your name. You messaged us back several times on the Instagram page. I'm like, yeah, that's me. And they said, okay, all right, email me and I'll let you know by the time I get back from Wodapalooza. And I got an email back and they said, okay, we want to sign you as an athlete to Lu Jiajun. And that was a really good moment for me. I'm still going through the motions with, the accident stuff. And that was just kind of like a pivotal moment when they signed me. And I was like, oh my gosh, okay, I can do this right now while I'm going through all this crap. It gave me so much positivity, but now I do get commission when I sell shoes. I get a little bit of it, and then I do get paid to podium. It's only certain events, but it helps out. So.
Okay, that's cool. Yeah. So, I think this is going to sound like a 40-year-old adult, but it feels like it's nice to have a diverse portfolio, to be able to just have different sponsors and people who support your journey, whether it is like just by giving you shoes or grips or protein. That may sound small, but actually that's money that, like, if you've got a budget that you just throw $100 in for fitness each month and you're not having to spend it because someone's giving you that stuff, that can grow and become the money to go to, competitions and that kind of thing. Exactly. So I love that mindset that you have around that.
Yeah. And I actually I started weightlifting. I'm in the weightlifting space now too.
Okay.
So Lu Jiajun liked that. they're like, okay, we're primarily a weightlifting type of team.
Right.
But I said, look, I'm going to start weightlifting. My coach is a national weightlifting coach. We're going to make some moves on this sport too. So I actually have an event. I think it's in September, but it's a bigger weightlifting event. It's in Fort Worth called the AO2 weightlifting. It's by Virus. So another one of the CrossFit sponsors for Adaptive. We're doing that. And I think she said it can lead to Arnold Strongman in Ohio. Mm-hmm. So that's one thing. And another sponsor, this is one of I love this because, the best way to your heart is through your stomach. So Gourmet Games just sponsored me. I think it was the beginning of this year. I could be wrong. Short-term memory loss here, but he does my meal preps for lunch and dinner. So
nice.
This week he feeds me. So now I'm eating a little bit healthier. I'm not eating so bad because I'm choosing to eat better foods than some of the snacks I eat.
Yeah. Well, and again, it all goes back to that stuff of just setting you up to have the settings around you to be the best athlete that you can be, because these people believe in you and want to be a part of your story because you asked. And I think that's just such a great thing for athletes to hear, especially as we go into the off season. You've got this whole year of competition that you've had, and there's a difference between third and fifth when you think about the medal that's hanging around your neck, but actually to a sponsor, that's a big deal to still be fifth in a division, of 40 athletes that competed throughout a whole season, and you still finished, in the top like 25%. I mean, I think that's worth something, and I think there's sponsors who would be interested in that. So if you're listening to this, that's my encouragement to you, is use the off season to maybe find a sponsor. And if you got questions, can people reach out to you about kind of how you went about it?
Always. And what the funny thing is I go to local competitions in San Antonio and just kind of see what's going on. I don't always do competitions just because, or, the local ones, because, I know myself, I get trapped in this hole of I got to always compete. I'll compete, but I don't have time to recover. But I'll go and I'll support my friends. And the funny thing is I met one of my sponsors, the Fittest Store, at a local competition. And I don't even think they cared that I podiumed the past couple of years at the games. They were just like, you're an adaptive games athlete. That is the coolest thing. Like, tell me about your disability and how do you overcome it? That was like the main questions. And now I see them at basically every competition I go to. I've seen that Wadapalooza and, Xenom, and, they're just always there, which is the coolest thing is they're always there, and they're so supportive and, hey, how's this going? Or how are you doing? Or, what can I help you with? Do you need a pair of shorts? Here's a pair of shorts.
Yeah.
And it's great. It's great. But, just ask. And people are so eager to hear about adaptive athlete.
There's a lot of curiosity about it.
Yeah. They want to know. And they're so intrigued because, we're adaptive. Obviously we have impairments, and they're like, how do you do it with one arm? Or how are you snatching with one arm? And it's just, they're so impressed. They're like, man, I can't even do that with two arms. And they're so like astonished, or, you're in a wheelchair and you're doing this. Like, I can't even do this. And I've got two legs, it's just, the support is crazy.
Yeah. It's really cool. All right. So speaking of community and kind of growing a community around you, in San Antonio, there's a lot of adaptive athletes actually just kind of milling about in San Antonio. You might run into a Mike Egan. You might run into a Noah Cook, or more likely Noah Cook would run into you because he's a vision athlete. You might run into Haley Coons. So tell me a little bit about this San Antonio community and how you've connected with some of the athletes there.
So I haven't seen Mike Egan in person yet, besides like the games and big events. All in all, though, he's a great person. Always just so positive. And Haley Coons, funny thing is, we're going to go get dinner next week. We chat all the time. I mean, we're sending voice notes every like 2 minutes sometimes. And
That's
sometimes
awesome.
We're sending voice notes on top of voice notes where ours aren't even sending, because she's trying to send hers and I'm trying to send mine. And then I'm sending another one because, like I said, I have like this short-term crap going on. And I'm like, hold on, I didn't tell you this. And we're just going back and forth. But she's great. We talk all the time. And we're just, I feel like we're on the same wavelength. So it's great to meet somebody that you can just connect with. We have the same music interests. We like to read, our social batteries drain after a certain amount of time, and we're like, okay, we're done, and we just understand each other. That's one of the greatest things about Haley is she gets me and I get her. And
yeah,
Noah, that guy, he's funny. He's so funny. I met him online first because his dad posted something on Instagram, and he was doing wall balls, and I noticed I think he had his cane on the ground.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, have you tried the open? Try the open. And anyways, he signed up for the open. We talked in between, and I'm like, hey, how's the semifinals going? How's the open going for you? Blah, blah, blah. And he's like, oh, it was tough, or oh, it was good. And we just kind of like debriefed what was going on. And now we're sending each other, long voice notes, this and that. And I'm like, hold on, I also forgot to tell you this. We're sending voice notes and everything. Yeah. But he's great. We've trained together once or twice. My memory is a little funny, but a couple of times I'd say, and it's been great. We unfortunately had to slow down on that because my coach had to go back to Georgia for his business. So we're going to get back in on that when he comes back, but we needed somebody to kind of be his eyes.
I just love I just love that San Antonio has this like not tight knit, but just this community of athletes that are close enough to each other where you guys are able to, hang out and work out together and get to know each other. So I think that's, again, important as we go into the off season. I mean, so this episode is actually the first episode officially of the off season. So I think it's just kind of starting that conversation about, okay, what do we do, when there's not something to do towards in the CrossFit season? And I think a good thing is find some sponsors, find some friends, look around your local community, maybe befriend some adaptives, see if there's anybody on the leaderboard who looks like they maybe go to a gym near you, something like that, and make some friends. It's a good opportunity. Yeah. Can I interest you in a lightning round?
Let's do it.
Yes. Okay. What was your favorite moment of the 2026 games? And this is a lightning round, so it can't be like long.
Okay. Oh, good Lord. I secured third place in the last workout.
Oh, let's go. That's the best. That's awesome. Yeah. So did you win the workout, or were you able to beat the person you needed to beat in that kind of race on the floor?
I had to beat who I needed to beat to podium. I mean, it was a you versus you, but
sure.
But I type deal. That's how I went in. But I turned around and I cried, and I was like, oh my God, did I just do this? And I was crying on the floor, and I was trying not to show it.
That's amazing. I mean, I feel like CrossFit's kind of weird in that sense where it's a race over the whole weekend, but occasionally when you get to that final event, there is an opportunity to see something like what you're describing. Kind of like when Tia Claire Toomey and Kara Saunders were like, in the finals of that, 2016, 2017 finals, when, they're both lunging at the same time, and then you realize that, oh wait, this is the race here, so that's super cool for you. I'm super excited for you. What is your go-to competition snack?
Applesauce. I love a
go-go squeezies.
Yes.
Let's go.
Yes. So
I'm going to try and get sponsored by them in the off season.
You should. Okay. I have a funny story behind that though.
Hit me.
So remember I told you I've only ran 2 5Ks in my life, and one was the CrossFit Games, and one was right before that, around that 2023 games. Okay, so I ran my first 5K a week before the games, and I don't know what I was doing. It was July. It was 110 degrees outside. I'm running on asphalt. And I came in for my 5K, and I nearly passed out on the ground. And my friend Jenny, she pulls out her daughter's lunchbox or little snack bag or whatever, and she hands me a go-go squeeze. And that just brought me back to life instantly. And it was just like Frankenstein. I just shot up. So ever since then, I just said, you know what, if it can save me here, it's going to save me anywhere else. So
I love it. That's awesome. What is your favorite way to spend a rest day?
Reading. I'm very boring. I like to read. Boring. Yeah, I'll read. I'll just lay with the cats. That's it.
Okay. Nice. What are you reading currently? Anything good?
I'm reading a thriller book called What Boys Learn, and so far it's pretty good. I love a good murder mystery. So,
if you could pick the music every day at the gym, what would be playing?
If we're working out, it's Kanye West. Mm-hmm. It just gets me in that mood.
What if some Taylor Swift just kind of snuck in there between the Kanye West?
then I probably would start singing and I'd probably be scaring people out of the gym. But
isn't that such a dilemma when you love music that's so singable, whether it's rap music or like Taylor Swift, that you're like, no, I have to continue breathing like in a controlled way.
yeah, I can't help it sometimes. And this season I've learned how to breathe and just kind of be like act natural. And there's times where I just start singing at the gym and I'm like, forget it.
Yep.
People know I'm weird. So,
yep.
Whatever.
Well, and I think there's like a nice combination of you contain multitudes in the standpoint of you like Kanye West and Taylor Swift, and neither of them like each other. So you contain multitudes there, You're restoring the balance in the musical force of this world by liking both of them.
Yes, I am. I know, and that's how I see it. I don't pick a side. I like both. I love both.
Nice. So 2 final questions, Courtney, as we get ready to wrap up. If someone is new to adaptive CrossFit and they want to maybe try it out and they're listening to this episode and like, I don't know if this is for me. I don't know if I can do this. What would you tell them to encourage them?
Well, what's the worst that can happen? Qualify. You qualify for the games. That it's not a bad idea. Look at Noah. Look at him. He just did it, and all of a sudden, he's one of the top athletes in the world.
Yeah.
Or say you don't make it, then you try to get next year. But you're fit. You're fitter than you were yesterday. You just keep trying, and it gives you something to shoot for, and just a healthier way of living.
Yeah.
Meet friends. What's so bad about meeting people? Well, I mean, sometimes people are shy. I get it, but you like the same things, and
Mm-hmm. I like that. Okay. And then the final question, if you could go back and encourage a younger version of yourself, what would you tell her?
Oh, man. Just not to be afraid to try, because at the same time, it's like, it might be scary, but you never know how far it's going to take you. And I never thought in my life I would be competing at this level. And here we are. I just completed my 4th year at the games, and maybe we'll go for a 5th. Who knows? But it's got me some sponsors. It's made me realize how strong I am. Just it's a learning experience. I learn more about myself every day. I learn how I can adapt with when I'm having a flare up, or just even meeting new people. That's another thing that I've learned. I've had with CrossFit.
There's one more thing I just want to touch on briefly, and even though it's not brief, it's a big deal. But that is that going into this 2026 game season, like a month before the Open started, you were in a car accident, and the residual effects of that car accident have been carrying with you throughout this season. Without getting into all the specifics of like the physical impacts of it, what's been the mental impacts of that on your mindset now looking back? Because I think there were probably times over the last 6 to 8 months where you're like, I don't know if I can do this, but now you did it. What's it like coming out the other side?
This has probably been another pivotal season for me. I mean, every season of life is, can be pivotal, but this one has been the most pivotal, I would say. Being that it happened a week before the Open, I was sitting there thinking, like, how can I do this? This isn't going to happen. And I filled myself up with doubt. And I know I filled myself up with doubt, even though I have like this memory loss issue and short-term memory dilemma. I know I could feel it in my bones that I just kind of was like, this isn't going to happen. And that I started off on the wrong foot with that, because your mentality is everything. And how you walk into something, how you show up to something, how you speak, how you think, that has a big effect on the outcome of things. And I just, for a few months, I had a hard time with the idea of what am I going to do? And, I had all these high expectations for myself, and, I've podiumed so many times, and I've done this and that. And I was just, it was sickening. It was just like, this doesn't define me. And of course, we had very supportive friends that are like, it's going to be okay. I promise you. And they were right. Their promise went through as always. They were right. It was fine. It was more of a mentality thing for me. Once I found that, I've accepted this, we're just going to take the ball. We're going to run with this, and we're going to train today as best as we can. And if I have to stop, I have to stop. But I'm just not going to quit cold turkey. We're just going to keep going. And, it's like when a kid falls and scrapes their knee, and they look at you for, oh my gosh, Dad,
are you
I'm
going to
hurt?
freak out?
But
Yeah.
And it's like, no, we're just going to keep going. And that's what I did. And, I ended up still getting first place at Wodapalooza. I ended up still putting at the CrossFit Games, and all of it was it was all mental. And I just changed it up, and I said, we're going to do our best, and it's going to be a you versus you, not a you versus whoever's out on the field.
Yeah.
And it was a game changer. And honestly, I feel better as a person even after the games.
Cool. Thanks for reflecting on that with me.
Yeah.
And thanks so much for being on this episode. It's been great getting to know you a little bit more, Courtnei.
Of course. It was a pleasure to be on here.
Thanks so much for joining us for this episode of the podcast. The thing I keep coming back to in Courtnei's story is her mentality, how she walked into this season and just had no clue what she was going to be able to do after the car accident that exacerbated her already existing symptoms. And she just went for it. And she honed into some of those things that she had back in 23, right? When her coach didn't show up to Madison for the CrossFit Games, and she had to cobble together a crew to support her throughout that competition. She took that mindset, that mentality, and took it into this season all the way to third place. And then the other half of the story, right? That quote, no's are free. She built her sponsor list one ask at a time. She asked at the games. She asked at Wodapalooza. She sent DMs over and over again. So here's my challenge to y'all. We are in the off season, and there's a window. There's an opportunity right now. Make a list of the brands that you already spend money with. A lot of the time we think about sponsorship as someone gives me money. Well, if someone gives you protein powder or electrolytes, that's money that you're not spending on those things that you can now go spend elsewhere on competing or getting to competitions. So think about those companies, send them a message, follow up, go to local competitions, talk to people in Vendor Village, look at the leaderboard and find an adaptive athlete who trains near you and reach out. So if this conversation hit for you, do me a favor, follow or subscribe wherever you're listening and send it to one athlete who needs to hear a conversation like this. Leave a rating or a review and give us a follow on Instagram. Thanks so much for joining us. I'm Matt Hotho, and I'll see you next time.